Welcome to Reddit Confessions.
She told me not to come. So of course I did. Lauren had been talking about this marathon for months. Her big one. The race that would cement her in the regional running scene. She said it like she was gunning for sainthood instead of another shiny medal for her crowded Instagram wall. The night before, she stood in front of the bathroom mirror, stretching her hamstrings and adjusting her ponytail while lecturing me about race vibes. "Mark, it's better if you don't come," she said casually, like she was suggesting a restaurant I might not like. I looked up from my laptop. "Why?" "Because you'll just stress me out. You ask too many questions. You get this face." She scrunched her nose in mock imitation. "Like you're analyzing every step I take. I thought you wanted me to support you." "I do. Just from a distance." She kissed my cheek. "Track me on Strava. I'll wave to you after." "Okay." That was the moment the seed was planted. Lauren always craved an audience. For her clients, for her followers, for the strangers she recruited into recording her post-run reels. But me? Suddenly, I was the distraction, the liability. So I nodded, smiled, pretended to agree. But inside, something tightened. The next morning, while she laced up her neon shoes and triple-knotted them like she was going into battle, I was already planning. I'd synced her Strava to my phone weeks earlier, a safety feature, I'd told her. She laughed, said it was sweet. She didn't realize it was surveillance. I left an hour after she did. Took the BART downtown, blending into the sea of anxious spouses and sweaty runners. The start line was chaos, cowbells, banners, announcers yelling into microphones. Everyone buzzing with anticipation. I stayed back, quiet, calculating. The race itself was boring, miles tracked in silence, her little orange dot crawling across my phone. I sipped burnt coffee from a paper cup and waited. She hit her pace exactly as she'd boasted she would, 7:20 splits, smooth as clockwork. But it was the finish line that mattered. Crowds pressed against barricades, holding signs and phones in the air. I maneuvered into position, not where she'd expect me, but a little past the official arch. Enough to see what happened after the medals and photos. She came in strong, flushed, sweaty, alive. I almost felt proud until I saw him. Tall, broad shoulders. A runner too, judging from the shoes and the confident way he moved through the crowd. He clapped for her, shouted her name. And when she crossed, he didn't hesitate. He wrapped his arms around her, lifted her slightly off the ground, and kissed her full on the mouth. Not a polite congratulations. Not a peck. A kiss. She melted into it. My body went cold. People cheered around me like it was the most natural thing in the world. Someone even snapped a picture. I stood frozen, phone still in my hand, Strava map glowing like a cruel joke. When they finally broke apart, she whispered something in his ear. He grinned. They walked off together, her medal bouncing against her chest, his hand at the small of her back like it belonged there. I didn't follow. Not then. Because in that moment, something shifted inside me. Not the explosion of rage you see in movies. Not screaming. Not even tears. Just silence. A silence sharp enough to cut. I slipped my phone into my pocket, turned away from the finish line, and walked into the crowd. My heart wasn't racing. My breathing was steady. My mind, for the first time in years, felt painfully clear. And that was the moment I stopped cheering and started calculating. Dumped her medal on the counter, ordered sushi, acted like nothing had happened. "How was your day?" she asked between bites of spicy tuna, like I hadn't stood 30 feet away while she kissed a stranger. "Quiet," I said. "Good. I didn't want you stressed out with the crowd." She smiled, oblivious. Or maybe confident, like she thought I'd never know. That's when I realized something. Lauren wasn't careless. She was disciplined. She thought in schedules, training plans, recovery windows. If she was cheating, it wouldn't be chaos. It would be organized. And organized people leave patterns. So I opened Strava. Her training weekends. The ones she always framed as sacred, untouchable, non-negotiable. I began scrolling back months. Each run, each ride, each carefully logged workout. At first glance, it was what it looked like, a dedicated athlete stacking miles. But then I noticed the splits. Every few weeks, her pace shifted dramatically. Not slower, not tired. Just different. Like she'd start strong, then vanish, reappear later with a perfect cool-down jog. It didn't make sense. Unless she was pausing for something else. Hotels, maybe. I cross-referenced her runs with Google Maps. The little pauses lined up almost perfectly with clusters of hotels along the routes. Not once. Not twice. Repeatedly. One in Sacramento. Another in Portland. A boutique place in Seattle she'd bragged about for the aesthetic breakfast. I dug deeper. She was sloppy on Instagram, always posting post-race lattes or avocado toast. What she didn't realize was that timestamps don't lie. I matched her posts to his. His name was Derek. Triathlete. Regional competitor. Married. That discovery nearly stopped me cold. He wasn't just some random guy she'd met at a finish line. He was a professional at this game, juggling schedules, events, appearances. And she wasn't just slipping up once. She was running marathons across state lines with him. I sat in the dark at my desk, phone glowing with their overlapping GPS trails. 2 orange lines weaving together through cities, across bridges, into hotel zones. It wasn't just cheating. It was choreography. And that meant it wasn't ending anytime soon. This was deliberate, rehearsed, built to last. I closed my laptop and leaned back, pulse steady again. Because now, I wasn't just suspicious. I was certain. And certainty is the first step toward revenge. This wasn't just a one-night mistake. This was choreography. I watched her laugh on the couch while texting her affair partner. It was a Tuesday night. I was sitting across from her, laptop open, pretending to be absorbed in a code review. She had her feet tucked under a blanket, hair still damp from her shower. That easy smile she always wore when she thought she was untouchable. Her phone kept buzzing. She typed fast, then laughed out loud. Not at me, not with me. At him. I leaned back in my chair, keeping my face neutral. What's so funny? I asked. Just a client, she said quickly, tucking the phone against her thigh. One of my girls sent me a meme. I nodded. Good one. Yeah. Stupid, though. You wouldn't get it. She smiled and turned the screen away. That smile. That smug, careless smile. She had no idea I was already inside her phone. 2 months earlier, I'd installed a background sync app on our shared iPad. Every message that came to her device left a shadow on mine. It wasn't real time, a few minutes lag behind, but it was enough. That night, while she scrolled and giggled and bit her lip like a teenager, my iPad lit up in the office. Derek, you crushed that finish. Could barely keep up. Lauren, don't lie. You pulled me through mile 18. Couldn't have done it without you. Derek, you owe me. Same hotel this time. Lauren, already booked. Room 412. I stared at the screen until the glow blurred. Same hotel. Same room. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't some fling that fizzled out. This was ritual. Rehearsal. A second life she'd curated as carefully as her Instagram feed. And me? I was just the backdrop. The loyal husband who made her look stable, safe, admirable. I scrolled further. Race plans, split times, cute nicknames. The banter was casual, intimate, the kind of shorthand people only build after months together. Maybe years. I closed the iPad. Walked back into the living room. She looked up, smiling like nothing had happened. You good? She asked. Yeah, I said evenly. Just work. But in my head, I was already pulling up the hotel's reservation page. And there it was, room 412. 2 nights. Paid in full. Her card. She thought she was being clever. But she'd forgotten who she married. I build systems for a living. And every system has a weakness. That night, lying in bed next to her, I stared at the ceiling, listening to her steady breathing. She thought she was untouchable, floating in the high of her double life. But I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. Because the thing about highs? They always crash. Same hotel this time, she typed. I already had the reservation pulled up. Revenge isn't about speed. It's about stamina. Lauren always said running marathons taught her discipline, patience, control. She thought those things made her better than me. But she didn't realize I'd been living by those same principles my entire life, just in different arenas. I didn't storm into that hotel room. I didn't confront her with screenshots or demand answers. That's what amateurs do. Amateurs want catharsis. Professionals wait. Instead, I began designing. Step 1 was simple. I needed a platform. Somewhere she'd willingly walk into the trap. Somewhere she'd talk freely, on record, without realizing the noose was tightening. She gave me the idea herself. It was late one night. Her phone propped up as she scrolled Instagram reels of runners, fitness gurus, wellness influencers. God, look at her, Lauren said. eyes locked on the screen. She gained 50,000 followers in 3 months just from a podcast. 50,000. I looked over my shoulder. You want that? I mean, duh. More followers, more sponsors, bigger audience. But you need a platform, a brand. I can't just post my runs forever. I said nothing then, just nodded. But the idea was already blooming. The next morning, on my work break, I bought a microphone, some basic recording software, and a domain name, Peak Mindset. A sleek, no-nonsense podcast that looked like it belonged in the wellness space. I built the website in a weekend. Minimalist design, quotes about discipline, stock images of people running at sunrise. By Monday, it looked legitimate. Then came the social pages. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. I seeded them with motivational posts, fitness memes, and trending hashtags. Bots handled the rest. Within 2 weeks, I had 1,000 followers. Babe, I said casually over dinner one night, I'm consulting on a new podcast. They're looking for athletes to feature. You'd be perfect. Her eyes lit up like I'd handed her gold. Me? Seriously? Yeah. You'd crush it. Talk about training, nutrition, motivation, your whole thing. She bit her lip, pretending to hesitate. You think they'd really want me? I'll ask. I smiled. Of course they would. She was the star. She just didn't realize she was signing up to monologue her own obituary. 2 weeks later, she sat across from me in my studio, really just our spare bedroom with a ring light and a cheap sound panel. I set up the mic, tested the levels, adjusted the lighting so she looked like an icon. She was glowing. This is huge, she said, fluffing her hair. This could take me to the next level. I pressed record. Tell me about loyalty, Lauren. Her laugh was light, careless. Oh, loyalty is everything. Without it, you can't succeed in running, in relationships, in life. People who quit, they never win. I nodded, hiding my smile. Every word was ammunition. Because this wasn't her interview. It was evidence. She smiled into the mic, clueless that she was monologuing her own funeral. The ring light made her skin glow, hair perfectly staged as if we had an audience of thousands. She didn't realize the only audience that mattered was me. I leaned back, adjusting my headphones, my voice steady and professional. Welcome to Peak Mindset. Today we're joined by a rising force in the fitness world, Lauren Parker, marathoner, nutritionist, and advocate for discipline and balance. Lauren, thanks for being here. She beamed, like I'd just knighted her. Oh my God, thank you for having me. This is such an honor. Let's start with the basics, I said. When you think about success, whether it's training or life, what's the one trait that matters most? Loyalty, she answered instantly. The word hung in the air like a loaded gun. Interesting, I said, poker-faced. Why loyalty? She leaned forward, animated, as if she were teaching a seminar. Because if you're loyal to your training, to your people, you can overcome anything. Without it, you're just lost. She laughed lightly. You can't win if you quit. I nodded slowly. And in relationships? Her eyes softened, rehearsed. The same. Loyalty means showing up, even when it's hard. It's everything. I almost laughed. Almost. She went on about nutrition hacks, morning routines, how she visualized finish lines when training got hard. The irony was suffocating. Every tip, every pearl of wisdom, was a contradiction carved straight from her double life. But I wasn't recording for fitness fans. I was recording her hypocrisy. At one point, she got emotional. I've been so blessed. I have a husband who supports me unconditionally. He lets me chase my goals, even when it means I'm gone on weekends. That kind of trust, it's rare. I forced a smile, pretending to jot notes. Inside, I wanted to vomit. She thought this was her audition for greatness. She thought strangers would hear this and admire her discipline. Instead, they would hear every lie in her voice, every hollow word about trust and loyalty, spliced against the reality she didn't know was coming. When we wrapped, she practically glowed. That was amazing. Seriously, Mark, this could change everything for me. I smiled. It will. She kissed my cheek on her way out of the room, still buzzing from her performance. She didn't realize she'd just handed me the rope I needed. Because the next guest wasn't going to be so careful. And he had no idea he'd be talking to her husband. Next episode, her dirty little secret guest star would join her. He had no idea he was being interviewed by her husband. I'd set it up the same way I did with Lauren. Professional emails, a polished calendar invite, branded graphics with Peak Mindset's logo. Derek said yes within an hour. I didn't even need to chase him. We met over Zoom on a Thursday evening. He logged in shirtless, towel slung around his neck, the background of his home gym glowing with neon blue lights. He grinned into the camera like he was the star of his own show. Derek Steele, I introduced, my voice level. Triathlete, business owner, podium finisher. Thanks for joining us. Pleasure, man. Big fan of what you're doing here. We need more real talk in this space. He leaned forward, muscles glistening with sweat, radiating charm. The kind of man who thrived on attention. The kind of man Lauren couldn't resist. I kept my tone neutral. So let's talk balance. You've got training, competition, running a business. How do you keep it all together? He laughed, cocky. Honestly, it's a juggling act. My wife, well, she thinks I'm working half the time. Truth is, I'm squeezing training in whenever I can. And I've got, extracurriculars. Extracurriculars. I repeated, my pen scratching across paper. What do you mean? He smirked. Come on, man. The lifestyle. You meet people. Connections. I've been seeing someone, nutritionist, marathoner. She travels light, doesn't weigh me down. Knows how to keep up. The words dripped with arrogance. He thought he was bragging. He didn't realize he was confessing. I tilted my head. So you think you can balance being a husband and that? He chuckled. Hey, as long as the races are won and the bills are paid, nobody complains. I forced myself not to break character. My hands itched to slam the laptop shut, to drive to his perfect little suburban home and drag him into the street. But I stayed calm. Because anger doesn't build evidence. Patience does. We wrapped 30 minutes later. He signed off with a wink, flexing his bicep. Send me the link when it's live, bro, gotta share it with my followers. I ended the call and sat there in silence, replaying his words in my head. Nutritionist girlfriend who travels light. Lauren. I isolated the audio, clipped his smug little confession, and labeled it Episode 2, Guest Highlights. All I needed now was the right upload date. Because when those words went live, their finish line wasn't going to be a medal. It was going to be exposure. I isolated the audio. Now I just needed the right upload date. You can't run from metadata. Lauren thought she was careful. She wasn't. Every sweaty selfie she uploaded after a long run, time-stamped. Every Strava post, GPS logged down to the meter. Every latte she bragged about in a new city, geotagged. All I had to do was connect the dots. I spent nights in my office, screen glowing, headphones on. To her, I was just working late like always. In reality, I was mapping out her affair like it was a crime scene. Sacramento, Portland, Seattle. The same pattern over and over. Marathon weekend, race bib, medal photo, then a 4-hour blackout on her Strava feed. That recovery time matched perfectly with Derek's missing blocks of activity. 2 runners, 2 phones, going dark at the exact same hour. Then reappearing, like clockwork, steps away from a hotel. Her Instagram tagged Best Acai Bowl in Seattle. Same block as Derek's, great view from my morning run. Different captions, different angles, same damn street corner. I cross-referenced everything, Strava splits, hotel receipts, timestamps from his business page, even the shadows in the background of their photos. Data doesn't lie. It builds stories brick by brick. And the story it built was airtight. When I finished, I exported it all into a single file. A video timeline. Side by side. Her voice from the interview about loyalty, his bragging about extracurriculars, overlaid with maps, dates, photos, their finish lines crossing into hotel beds. It wasn't just evidence. It was narrative. And narratives go viral. The teaser practically wrote itself. Coming soon, when finish lines cross the line. A Peak Mindset exclusive. I uploaded it to the Peak Mindset socials, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Within an hour, the post had 50 shares. By morning, it had 3,000. Lauren scrolled past it at breakfast, frowning. Weird. Someone's copying your branding already. I sipped my coffee. That sucks. People love to rip off new pages. She nodded, unconcerned. Amateurs. It'll never stick. She had no idea she was watching the trailer for her own destruction. She was at brunch when the internet started asking questions. Lauren had dragged me to one of those trendy places with $12 green juices and avocado toast that looks like a painting. She wore her medal around her neck, 2 weeks old, but still her personality for the day. She was scrolling through Instagram, head bent over her phone, while I picked at eggs I didn't even want. Then her screen froze. Her smile slipped. "Wait," she muttered, refreshing. "What the hell?" Her fingers tapped frantically. Notifications stacked. Mentions, tags, DMs. I kept my face calm, sipping coffee, while my phone in my pocket buzzed with the same flood. Because the episode had just dropped. Peak Mindset, Episode 2, When Finish Lines Cross the Line. It opened with her smiling voice. "Loyalty is everything." Cut to Derek's cocky laugh. "I've been seeing someone, nutritionist, marathoner. Travels light." Overlaid with maps, timestamps, metal photos. Their voices threaded together like a duet of lies. The comments section exploded. "Isn't that Lauren Parker? Wait, isn't he married? Bruh, this is Derek Steele from TriFit. No way." Peak Mindset just ended 2 careers in 20 minutes. I watched her face pale as she scrolled. "Oh my God," she whispered. "Oh my God, Mark." "What?" I asked, perfectly innocent. Someone made a fake podcast. They edited me. This isn't real." She shoved the phone across the table. The audio kept playing, her voice echoing back her own hypocrisy. I leaned in, frowning like a confused husband. "That's you, though. They cut it wrong. It's out of context." Her voice rose. A couple at the next table turned. Lauren forced a laugh, lowering her tone. "People are insane." But her hands shook as she picked up the phone again. By the time the check came, her follower count was already bleeding. Down 2,000 in an hour. Sponsors pulled back in DMs. Need to pause. Reconsidering partnership. She scrolled faster, panic rising. Then she froze completely. One DM sat at the top of her inbox. Not from a stranger. From Derek's wife. "We need to talk." She asked if I'd seen the podcast. I said, "Which part?" By then, the episode had gone nuclear. Clips were everywhere. Reddit threads dissecting her loyalty quote. TikTok remixes pairing Derek's smirk with clown music. Twitter calling them the finish line fakes. It was wildfire, and she was choking on the smoke. She burst through the door that evening, her face blotchy from crying, her voice a frantic whisper. "Mark, did you see it?" I looked up from my laptop, calm as glass. "See what?" The podcast thing. That edit. With me and..." She choked on Derek's name. "It's all lies. It's not what it looks like." I tilted my head, feigning confusion. "Which part?" Her lips trembled. For a second, she didn't know how to answer. Because every part of it was true. She collapsed onto the couch, pulling her knees up like a child. "They ruined me. My sponsor pulled out. My DMs are a nightmare. Everyone thinks I'm..." She broke off, covering her face. I sat beside her, careful to put a hand on her shoulder. Gentle, supportive, believable. "Hey, we'll figure it out." But inside, I savored every crack in her voice. Meanwhile, Derek had gone silent. His socials dark, no posts, no replies. His absence made her panic worse. She checked her phone every 5 minutes like a teenager waiting for a text. Nothing. Her followers turned savage. She lost 10,000 in a single night. Screenshots of her Strava trails, overlaid with Derek's, were making rounds with the caption, "Split times don't lie." Brands unfollowed her one by one, severing ties in silence. And then, in the middle of her spiral, her eyes narrowed at me. "You're so calm," she said softly. I blinked. "What do you mean?" "This is my life burning down, Mark. And you're just sitting there." "I'm trying to help." "No." She shook her head, searching my face. "It's almost like you knew." The words hung between us like a blade. I leaned back slowly, meeting her gaze. "Are you saying you think I made that podcast?" Her eyes darted away. "I don't know." But I could tell. She wasn't suspicious of Derek. She was suspicious of me. There are checkpoints in every race. And she was about to hit one she wouldn't forget. Lauren had shifted from panic to strategy mode. She wasn't crying anymore. She was typing. Fast. At night, after she thought I'd gone to bed, I'd hear the clack of her keyboard in the office. PR pitches. Drafts of statements. Half-written apologies mixed with excuses. She was trying to turn a scandal into a teachable moment. But I wasn't watching her emails from the doorway. I was inside her inbox. I'd cloned her login weeks earlier. While she scrambled to build a defense, I was reading her playbook. Subject line, Reputation Management Inquiry. Sent to 3 PR firms. She was begging for damage control packages, asking how quickly they could shift the narrative. Her words, not mine. Another thread caught my eye. A burner Gmail account. Cheap, sloppy new. She'd used it to send a message to someone I never expected. Derek's wife. The message was pathetic. Don't believe everything you hear. There's context you don't know. Let's talk. I leaned back in my chair, almost laughing. Lauren still thought she could negotiate her way out, as if Derek's wife would be naive enough to forgive. But the reply was already waiting. Short, direct, brutal. I already know. I think we should compare notes. I reread it 3 times, a cold satisfaction running through me. Lauren thought she was pulling strings, but the real alliance was waiting for me. Not her. Me. The wife of the man who ruined my marriage just handed me his Achilles heel. Her name was Claire. Mid-30s. School teacher. Mother of 2. She wasn't flashy like Lauren. No curated posts, no marathon medals, no performative glow. Just a plain Instagram with kids' drawings and the occasional PDA fundraiser. Her first message was cautious. Are you really who I think you are? I typed back. Depends. Are you married to Derek Steele? A pause. Then, not for long. We spoke that night. Her voice was calm, but underneath I could hear something hard, something sharpened by months, maybe years, of suspicion. He told me he was traveling for training, she said. I believed him, until I found a receipt for champagne in Portland. 2 glasses. He doesn't even drink champagne. I stayed quiet, letting her unravel. And then your podcast. She exhaled, shaky but steadying. Hearing him brag about a nutritionist girlfriend who travels light, that was the confirmation I needed. I told her I had data, GPS logs, audio, receipts. She told me she had something better. Photos, screenshots, voice notes he'd left when he was drunk, sloppy, arrogant confessions about keeping both lives running. Texts where he promised Lauren she'd be next in line once things settled. The more she revealed, the clearer the picture became. This wasn't just an affair. This was a man building parallel worlds, cashing in on the illusion of being a disciplined, faithful athlete while secretly running a marathon of lies. People need to see who he really is, Claire said. Agreed, I answered. We drafted a plan together. Coordinated drops. Evidence timed like mile markers. First, her public statement, paired with my next episode. Then the screenshots. Then the receipts. Each wave dismantling his persona piece by piece until there was nothing left. This will destroy him, she whispered. I smiled into the silence. That's the point. By the end of the call, we weren't just betrayed spouses. We were co-conspirators. 1 joint statement. 2 careers down. 3 lives changed forever. She came home crying. I offered tea. Lauren's downfall wasn't a sprint. It was a slow unravel, each sponsor dropping her like discarded race bibs, each follower peeling away until her carefully curated world looked like an abandoned stadium. By then, Peak Mindset had already released Claire's joint statement alongside Derek's bragging clips. Screenshots flooded forums. Comment sections were graveyards of her old fans, replaced with strangers dissecting her hypocrisy. Lauren tried to fight it first. Denials. Half-hearted explanations. It was taken out of context. People are jealous. The internet twists everything. But the more she spoke, the louder the laughter grew. The night she finally broke, I found her in the kitchen, slumped against the counter, mascara streaked down her cheeks like were paint gone wrong. They hate me, she whispered. Everyone. My clients canceled. My sponsors are gone. Even Derek won't answer my messages. She looked up at me with eyes that had once glowed with ambition, but now flickered with desperation. Do you think we can rebuild? You and me? I set the kettle on the stove, calm as ever. What do you mean? She swallowed hard. I mean us. The marriage. We can move past this. Start over. I'll delete everything. I'll stop traveling. Her voice cracked. I'll be better. It was almost pitiful, watching her bargain for scraps of normalcy, like a runner crawling on bloody knees toward a finish line no one cared about anymore. I stirred honey into her tea, handed her the cup. My voice was soft, measured, the same tone I'd used 100 times when comforting her after bad races. Yes, I said gently. We can rebuild. She exhaled, relieved, clutching the cup like it was salvation. But inside, my decision was already made. I wasn't rebuilding. I was finishing the race. Some races aren't worth finishing. Lauren had 1 marathon left that season. She trained like it was salvation, as if crossing that finish line would erase everything. The podcast, the affair, the sponsors who'd ghosted her. She clung to it like a lifeline. This one's different, she told me, pacing the living room with her training plan in hand. If I nail this, people will see I'm still serious. They'll respect me again. I nodded, feigning support. You've got this. She smiled weakly, mistaking my calm for belief instead of calculation. The night before race day, she laid out her kit like always: shoes, bib, gels, all arranged neatly on the table. A ritual she'd done 100 times. She didn't notice the envelope already waiting in my desk drawer. The morning of, the crowd buzzed with anticipation. Runners stretched, bouncing on their toes. Music blasted from the loudspeakers. Lauren was jittery but determined, adjusting her shoelaces 3 times before lining up in her corral. That's when the process server walked in. A man in a windbreaker, clipboard in hand, cutting through the crowd like he belonged there. He tapped her shoulder, held out the envelope. Lauren Parker? She blinked. Yes. You've been served. Confusion. Then recognition. Then horror. The cameras caught everything. The frozen smile, the envelope slipping from her fingers, the gasps from other runners as she realized what had just happened. Divorce papers. Filed. Final. Public. Her knees buckled. The announcer's voice echoed overhead. 2 minutes to start. But Lauren wasn't moving. She stood at the line, shattered, the race clock ticking down as the envelope lay at her feet. I watched from the crowd, anonymous among strangers, as she turned in slow motion, eyes scanning, searching. Maybe for Derek. Maybe for me. But she didn't run. She never crossed that finish line. And by nightfall, the footage was everywhere. The adrenaline was gone. But the victory was clean. I watched the footage loop across platforms for days. Lauren at the starting line, envelope in hand, her face collapsing in front of cameras. She never ran. Not a single step. The running community devoured it. Some mocked her. Others dissected her split times like courtroom evidence. But the consensus was clear. She was finished. DNS did not start. That acronym followed her name everywhere, a scarlet letter stamped on every comment thread. Derek stayed quiet. Too quiet. His wife, Claire, didn't. She released her statement the same day the race humiliation went viral. Screenshots, photos, audio clips. Derek's double life spread wider than Lauren's. His sponsors cut him loose within 48 hours. He was done too. But I didn't gloat publicly. That wasn't the point. My satisfaction came quietly, like a runner's breath after a hard climb. One evening, a fitness blog reached out. They thought Peak Mindset was real. They wanted to know more about the mysterious podcast that had exposed the truth about discipline in the influencer world. I agreed to an interview. Anonymous. Just a voice. They asked why I made the podcast. I said, because some runners lose when they start racing each other instead of the clock. They published it under the headline, The Ghost Host of Peak Mindset, How an Anonymous Podcaster Toppled 2 Fitness Stars. It spread. Not as fast as the scandal, but steady. Quotes pulled, threads shared, people calling it the most brutal takedown in running culture. Then came the email. From a publisher. We think there's a book here. I leaned back in my chair, the glow of the screen reflecting off my coffee. A book deal. A whole new life waiting on the other side of betrayal. The finish line wasn't just clean. It was profitable. She ran marathons. I ran the long game. By the time the divorce finalized, Lauren was already a ghost in the fitness world. Her name was shorthand for failure. Sponsors wouldn't touch her. Race directors stopped inviting her. Screenshots of her crying at the start line turned into memes. DNS energy plastered across TikTok. Derek didn't fare better. Claire filed for divorce, and with her receipts, he lost big. Money, reputation, family. His coaching business collapsed. His Instagram bio went from triathlete winner husband to just endurance junkie. The comments told the rest of the story. As for me, I moved. A new city, new apartment, no medals on the wall, no curated reels, just silence, and the kind of peace you can't buy back once it's gone. Sometimes, when I walked the streets, I'd see couples jogging together. Matching shoes, matching strides. I wondered if they had secrets too, or if one of them was already running a parallel race no one else could see. The podcast? I let it fade. Deleted the socials, shut down the site. It had done its job. Peak Mindset wasn't meant to last. It was meant to end. But endings are funny. They echo. A few months later, I was in a bookstore cafe, working quietly on my laptop. A stranger slid into the seat across from me. Mid-20s, headphones looped around her neck, eyes lit with recognition. "Sorry," she said, leaning forward, voice low but certain. "I know this is weird, but aren't you the guy who—" She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. I smiled faintly, closed my laptop, and stood. Because even if the race was over, my name was still out there. And some finish lines never really stay crossed.